Hi everyone, today I'm going to be doing a review of this colour, Daniel Smith's Imperial Purple. I got this in the mail the other day, and as you guys know, purple is my favourite colour, so I thought I would give this one a try. I just like the look of the granulation, and yeah, I thought it would be a nice one to use in my paintings for shadows, that kind of thing. So I'll give you a little bit of a rundown of this colour. So it's a Series 2 pigment. It actually contains two pigments in here. So if we look at the side of the bottle, it's quinacridone red and ultramarine blue, which are both Daniel Smith colours. It looks like they've sort of mixed them together. There's also another colour called Rose of Ultramarine, which is composed of these two colours as well. It just has a quinacridone red bias, but they're the exact same colours. So, I mean, if you've got those two colours, you can probably mix them in different proportions, but I do prefer the kind of purple mix, which is why I got this. So it's a semi-transparent, low-staining pigment, which will be interesting. We can lift off areas here. We'll do some sketches of the grapes, maybe get in some light source to the left or something like that, and has excellent light fastness. So I've also done a quick swatch over here, and you can already see that beautiful granulation. I'll zoom in so that you can take a quick look. So there you go, you can see over here, a bit of granulation here on the side, here at the bottom, even through here where the pigment's dried. A little bit funny, I've dropped in some water in there as well to sort of emphasize that. But you can see some of the separation, some of the kind of reds coming out over here, some of the blue separating out over there as well. So it does sort of create a very interesting mix, and I do like the tinting power of this paint as well. And for those of you who are not familiar with tinting power, it's just basically how light and dark the paint can go as you add more water. So if you've got a paint that's got a really high tinting ability, you're going to be able to get a very dark tone to a very, very light tone. But if low tinting is something like a yellow, so 𝗢𝗙𝗙𝗦𝗧𝗔𝗍 yellow or something, if you use it straight from the tube, it's still not even going to be as dark as the lightest purple mix that you can put together here. So I do like this about that color. Just having that mix allows you to actually paint an entire painting with one color. And also for me, it's important because I paint a lot of shadows with a purplish, a cool sort of mix. So having this mixed in with perhaps a bit of neutral tint or Payne's grey, I think could create some interesting shadow-like effects, especially with this granulation. So I'm going to go through and do some of these, some of these grapes, and also these grapefruits, these eggplants below with the paint, and we'll see how we go. And I'm kind of tossed up between using a number 8 round brush and a number 6 round brush. I think let's have them both on hand. And for the grapes, I probably start with the number 6 first. I have a little bit of this paint already left over here. It says that it's a low staining paint, which means that you should be able to lift out once it's dried. And we'll test that because I think getting in some kind of a shadow or something on the right hand side and getting a lighter mark on the left hand side will be very important. And with the grapes, what I'm doing here as well is that I'm leaving in some areas a little bit of white to indicate just a section of separation there. We don't have to create that all over, but just enough of a separation. It's something I've learnt over the years, a bit of a shortcut method. Otherwise you're going to have to sit here and wait for them all to dry, and I'm not going to do that. So the thing with these grapes is that they do come in all different sort of tones. They're slightly varied in tone. So I'm using different mixes of this purple, and also the good thing about using different mixes is that we're going to allow the range of these colors to show through, and see if we can also get some granulation in the lighter sort of mixes. So just putting some of this in. This is a little bit lighter, a little bit more of a watery mix here, and then we'll go for a darker mix around this side. Blend that in like that. Okay, there's a little one in there, little baby grape there in the corner. Let's have a look. There's also some darkness and things behind there, so I'll just colour that in a bit. There we go. So there's another grape. Okay, and we'll go around. You can already see it granulating out in that area. It's just beautiful. This paper is a sheet of Arches paper, 100% cotton paper, if you're wondering what I'm using. Doing this pretty quickly as well. I don't want to spend all day on this. There's also some areas of leaves and things which I will grab, actually a bit of undersea green. Undersea green, another colour which I talk about a little bit in a second review. I'll link that one in the description or a little bit further down below if you want to learn more about that, but it also has the same ultramarine blue that's present in this tube of Imperial Purple. It seems like Daniel Smith uses this in quite a few of their granulating colours where possible, this ultramarine, to create granulating mixes, because I know with most quinacridone colours they're not naturally granulating, so they're kind of staining and very bright staining colours. Go quite a long way. So often if you combine the properties of one colour with another, you get a mixture of the advantages of both. So, look, I'm just doing these ones a little bit fast now. I'm getting a bit caught up in this, but this little thing that I'm doing here, which is leaving a little space in between some of the grapes, that's going to help you to separate them out, to give it a bit of individuality from the other, separate them out from the other grapes, what I'm trying to say. So there we go. Paint that one in. These little ones here, let's put in a very light wash of purple. Even here, I'll just cover that one a bit. A little bit here, a little bit here, a little bit here. It's important to have a combination of lighter and darker tones. It's just going to look more interesting. Here we go up the top. Darker again, and I'm going to go darker in this one. Okay, it's almost full tone up the top. There, here, and maybe I got a grape here as well, a smaller one. Oops, turned into a big one, but doesn't matter. I'm nearly done with these. I'm really taking quite a while, but there's one. Got another one here, and you can join some of them up as well if you don't want to create too much of a shadow in between, like a separation in between. You can join them up more. And also what we're going to do later is in these little areas of cracks and things like that, we're going to add some dark areas of purple plus neutral tint. I really want to maximize the darkness of this paint. We'll see how far it can go. We can preserve the purple and still get in extra areas of darkness in here with some neutral tint. Okay, I think if we just go purple alone, it's not going to be nearly dark enough in some of these areas, but we can certainly try and just see where it leads us later. So there we go, there's another grape. We've got another one here as well. I'm also going to put in perhaps a little background around the grapes later, just for some fun, some green or something like that around the edges. But what we can do is I've got a bit of undersea green, so I'll squeeze out and we'll use that on the bottom part here. Okay, just a bit of undersea green, and this is going to be great to get in a little bit of these leaves. Some little leaves there at the bottom, and just tap that on like that. There's some amazing separation with this undersea green as well. It's kind of similar to the purple, where in certain circumstances, if you're doing it like this, it can be sort of tricky, but in some circumstances it can separate out to quite beautiful colours as well. So you see the 𝗠𝗘𝗙𝗦𝗧𝗘 gold in there come out. But you know, I just thought I'd add in some of these to indicate some leaves and not leaves, the stem, because wet into wet you're going to be able to just get a looser sort of feel with what's going on, like that. Okay, I will even add some in the background, a little bit in the background in some areas, maybe here, you know, here. Let's go lighter this side. Okay. Just little splashes of colour here and there. It's looking good. Okay, so I'm going to dry this off a little bit. There's a couple of things I want to do. The first thing we want to just test out is lifting ability. So apparently it's lifting. So if I just add a bit of water here on the left-hand side, fantastic, and you can already see it starting to come out, and just wet down that left side of the grape, lift out a bit, and that's creating a little highlight there. We'll do it here as well. And it's a thing with most granulating paints, they often lift out very easily compared to non-granulating paints, more standing sort of paints. I use the tissue because it just makes it easier to control where the water sort of spreads out to, and if I leave it and I don't do anything with it, what happens is the water can sort of spread into the grape and just effect becomes less controllable. So I'm just doing this pretty quickly for now. A bit of softness in there, a bit there, maybe a bit here, like that. There, I think we've got a bit here as well. Just softening some of the edges and leaving some of the harder edges as well. So there we go. Lift off there a bit, put a bit here, lift off. Okay, just implying that bit of light coming over from the left-hand side. Okay, and you kind of use these also, you can blend parts of the grapes together where we previously left a bit of, see a little bit of this open area like that. Beautiful. It's so easy to blend with this. I'm really super impressed with this paint, and the ease of this, I can't emphasize how easy it is to lift and to blend with this brush. You're getting a lot of, it's just simple to, normally you're going to have to scrub away and just do this forever, and even going into these little white areas in between. Let me just put in a bit more of, you know, sometimes some of the grapes are not going to all look the same in terms of the reflection, so you know, some of them have a bit more than others, a little more inconsistency than others, so just change that little shape, that little light area more. Okay, so you don't always, people say when you put the watercolors on the paper, that's it, you can't do anything afterwards. In fact, I've said that, but certainly with granulating paints you have a bit more leeway here, and especially if you're doing light sort of highlights, you're not doing anything that requires a perfect white highlight, you're going to be fine. And this is, I'm doing this lifting off on cotton watercolor paper as well, and those of you who've painted on cotton watercolor paper a lot will know that it can really sink in. The paints can just be very hard to lift compared to some of the cellulose-like papers that people use. So I'm very, very impressed how the paper is handling this. Creating these shadows, and we're not done yet because we haven't tested how the paint looks like with full tint, full tinting strength, meaning we're going to use purple almost straight out from the tube with a tiny bit of water, and we're also going to test it with a bit of little bit of, what am I trying to say, a little bit of neutral tint. So great. So there we go, we've got a couple more grapes in. We're pretty much done with the grapes. All we want to do now, I just want to put in some, like I said before, some darker bits of purple with a little bit of neutral tint to get in the final dark bits of it. And then we can sort of mess around with the background a little bit, have a bit of a play around, see what we can come up with. So here's a bit of neutral tint and a bit of purple. Okay, let me just see how much, what's that color like? It's pretty dark. It's very, very dark. So I'm going to go in straight with it here. And some areas, here for example, there's going to be a dark bit in there, and there. You don't want to overdo it, but just in some parts, dry off that brush and you're going to be able to get in just a bit more of a subtle mark or line in areas. And remember, I'm not going to keep it like this all the way through. I'm going to also use some lifting out to perhaps soften some of these lines later. But the sharpness in here is just crucial, because we, as much as we love the softness of these grape shapes, we need to have something that will separate them out. And that's why I really recommend also drying the brush a little bit, because as you dry the brush, what's going to happen is that the marks you make on the paper are going to be sort of fleeting marks. They're going to skip. You're going to get more subtle, more natural marks that occur in nature. So I'm liking how that's looking at the moment, and I'll continue along. And because if we look at the reference, there's no white in between. I've left that white there to help guide me later on with this part, and also during the time that you're painting them. If you have these white bits, it allows you to paint each individual grape without them all melding into one big shape. So this is what I'm doing. I'm just giving the grapes a little bit more dimensionality. You can even go up into some of the grapes. Go up into something like that and darken a little bit. Soften again and darken around that right hand side. We can get in more tonality around the right hand side. And how about if I just use some purple, just Imperial Purple on its own. Let's see how that's going to look. Teeny bit of water, just a little bit of water in there. Dry the brush. And then I'm just going to go in. This is without any neutral tint, so we want to try this without neutral tint to see if it can go as dark. Certainly can. So it has very high tinting strength. I keep saying that, but it's an important thing. There, so we can even go into some of the branch a bit here as well. This little bit. Don't want too much of that in here. Okay, so look, we got a really basic sort of indication of what's going on here. You can even pick up some of this and just, again, darken off some of the grapes a bit more, get a bit of a kind of rougher edge like that as well. This is kind of like a bit of dry brush on some of it, some of these grapes, okay? And now that we're done, I'm just going to go into the background and put in just some lighter colours, really light colours. I do have a bit of that green left over, so I can just go ahead and do that. And I want to make sure that the grapes really stand out against the background. So if I just keep the background really light, then that should darken up more. And continue on here, here, around the side here. There, that's a leaf, I think, we put in before. A bit more, kind of a bit of purple in there as well, light purple, so we can get some soft bits of range in here. See how that appears. Okay. Could be other grapes or things in the background. And I know I'm cheating a little bit using this undersea green, but I just wanted to use it. Get in a few of these sort of green areas and branches and things like that. So I'm certainly quite happy with this color. I really love it, and it's probably one of my favorite colors so far. Let's have a try on these 3 eggplants here on the left. What I'm going to do is start picking up a bit of this undersea green, okay, and we'll get in the stems, top part of these eggplants, and they're actually pretty light, so I've gone too dark here. They should be sort of about this, maybe a little bit darker, around this darkness here. Okay, and we're going to just test the wet and wet effects to see what happens. We put in the green first here, and then what I'll do is that I'll put in the green afterwards on that one to see what happens, if it still looks okay, how it sort of mixes around. So here's that purple. Let's drop that in up the top. It's going to need some neutral tint in there. It's way too light and too purple as well. So just mix up a bit more of this Imperial Purple in here with some of the neutral tint that we can get. Pretty dark sort of color like that, and use it almost straight in there. And here we go, just in areas I'm going to leave the wet and wet areas to sort of blend in like that. A bit more water would be nice as well. Here, let's just bring that around the edges like that. And I know, some eggplants are more purple than others, so that just depends on the variety. And I'll leave that one, that looks okay. Even drop in some darkness in areas, so if you want a bit more darkness on the left side of that eggplant, a bit more there would be good. Some in the middle here, a bit of wet and wet activity. Try it on this one, a bit more here. Okay, some here. Now, this one's been left to dry for a little bit longer, so certainly there's less wet and wet activity going on. Some areas that's already partially dried. Come across and let's just get in this whole section here. That neutral tint has really subdued the color a bit. So there's another one. That one does look more eggplanty though, I have to say. That one on the right, maybe because of that neutral tint in there. So I have a drop in that neutral tint here, just coming down in here, maybe a bit in there as well, reflective sort of bits like that. There. Okay, not bad. Let's go ahead and try that one, the final one here on the left, which I'm going to go in straight with the Imperial Purple mixed in with neutral tint first, and then I'm going to put in the green after, and I'm going to see how it handles that. Coming around here, here, in here, here. Okay, now here comes the time to put in the green. Just dry off that brush. Undersea green, and let's drop that in. Let's put more water actually, a bit more water. Drop that in, see how that effect carries out. And a bit more of that leaf coming out like that. And it looks quite nice actually. So sometimes you can never quite tell until it has dried, so we're just going to have to wait and see. But one of the things to really make sure is that you've got extra darkness in the areas of the eggplant that you want to imply yeah, just shadows and reflections and things like that, which are kind of more on the edges of the eggplants actually. The light source seems to be coming from right in front, but then you've got some dark spots here, a bit there, you know, some down here as well. A bit of this dry brush is good, certainly, to just add in some quick bits and pieces. A bit of the white is left in too on the paper. But overall, I'm super happy with this paint. Do recommend it. I'll link it in my materials in the text, the description. And if you have any questions, then just let me know. If you like this video, check out the playlist on the right. I release new tutorials and art supply reviews each week to help you progress faster in your watercolor journey.